Greetings. Welcome to this lesson. If you're new to this channel, make sure that you click on the subscribe button, share, and also like our video. So this is your tutor, Mr. Zimba, and in today's lesson, we're just going to look at the cell structure and also the cell specialization. One of the important topic in biology. I'm sure as you go through past papers, you're going to agree with me that question 1, in most cases, it's a question which comes on the cells, cell structure, and also cell specialization. So at the end of this lesson, there is a task that we're going to do. Of course, we're going to answer it together, and then I will give you also something for you to answer alone. All right. So when you look at cell specialization, this is just a process by which a cell undergoes specific changes in structure and chemical composition of the cytoplasm in order to perform a specific function. What does this mean? This means that each cell is specialized to carry out its specific function. The cells that we have in biology, they are specialized. They carry specific functions. What do I mean by this? The way a parasite cell function is not the same way as a sperm cell can function. The way an ovum cell can function is not the same way a red blood cell can function. It's not also the same way the white blood cell can function. So what are we saying here? We are saying each cell is specific to carry out its own function. That is what we call cell specialization. So examples of the specialized cells that we have ciliated cell, we have root hair cell, the vesicular bundles where we have the xylem as well as the phloem vessel, we have the gut cell, the nerve cells, the muscle cell, the white blood cell, the red blood cells. So these are just some of the specialized cells that we have, and we are going to look at them one by one so that we can have an insight, a better understanding on these cells. Right, so we're going to start with ciliated cell. We are going to start with a ciliated cell. So what is this ciliated cell? So these are the cells that are found in the inner lining of the respiratory tract and also in the oviduct. What do they do? So in the respiratory tract, they sweep and trap dusty particles. That's what the ciliated cell do. What of in the oviduct? So in the oviduct, they move the ovum towards the uterus. Alright, so what are we simply learning from this? So we are saying this ciliated cell is found in two places. It is found in the respiratory tract where it traps dust and also mucus. It is also found in the oviduct. So in case you find a question where they'll ask you where these cells are found, so this cell is found in the oviduct. The other name for oviduct, it is the fallopian tube. So what does it do? Remember, the ovum, which is the female gamete, the ovum is not like the way the sperm cell is. The sperm cell, at least it has a tail which enables it to swim, but the ovum has no tail. So the ovum is just like this. It only has a nucleus, while a sperm cell, it has a tail there which enables it to swim. So now this ovum, it has no legs. That's why the ciliated cells, they are the ones which will help to move it towards the uterus for fertilization, because fertilization happens in the fallopian tube, which is the oviduct. Then once the egg is fertilized, it will be moved by the sedated cells to the uterus, where it will be now implanted by the process called the implantation. So we are learning here is that the sedated cells in the oviduct, or rather in the fallopian tube, they move this egg, the ovum, towards the uterus in readiness for implantation. All right, what is their adaptation? Okay, so the sedated cells, the presence of the cytoplasmic hair called the cilia. So when we look at the structure of the structure of a sedated cell, it has cilia. This is how it is able to perform its function. So the adaptation of the sedated cell, it has cilia here. That's why it is called a sedated cell. It has got these tiny hairs called the cilia, and these are the ones which will move the ovum, and also it will sweep and also trap dust particles in the respiratory tract. So this is a sedated cell. Alright, it also has these other parts like the cell membrane, we have the cytoplasm, and it also has the nucleus, since it's a cell. So we also have what we call as the root air cell. Just from the word root, this cell is found where it is found in plants. Where exactly? In the roots. So this cell is found in plants, specifically in the roots. That's why it is called the root air cell, because it is found in the roots. And this cell, if you look at this cell, of course it has the cell wall here, it has the cell membrane, which we know the function, the nucleus, the cytoplasm, the vacuole, which stores cells up, the cytoplasm, a jelly-like structure. So these are the parts that a root air cell has. It also has an elongated outgrowth here. It has an elongated outgrowth. So in case they ask us the adaptation of this root air cell, it has an elongated outgrowth. And since the root air cell is found in the roots, the function is just for absorption. All right. So, of course, like I said, these are found near the tip roots. So they are found in the roots. What are their functions? The functions of the root air cells is absorption of water and mineral salts. So absorption of water and also mineral salts. That is the function of the root air cell. They also help to anchor a plant. They also help to anchor a plant. All right. What of the adaptation? So like I explained there, it has an elongated outgrowth. A root air cell has an elongated outgrowth. That's one thing we should never forget. The root air cell has this part called the elongated outgrowth. So now this is the one that increases the surface area for faster absorption. The other adaptation is the absence of the chloroplast. In this root air cell, there are no chloroplasts. There is just high concentration of mitochondria, and we know the function of the mitochondria. It's a powerhouse of a cell, and this is where respiration takes place. This is where energy is formed. We have now the other specialized cells that we have is the vesicular bundles, where we have the xylem as well as the phloem. So we have the xylem and the phloem, but we are going to start with the the xylem. This is how a xylem looks like. This is how a xylem looks like. So what is the function of this xylem? So the xylem, its function is to conduct water and also mineral salts. So anything to do with water, the xylem is the one who is in charge. The xylem is in charge. It also provides the mechanical support to the plant. The xylem, they also provide mechanical support to the plants. Their adaptation, the end walls of the neighboring cells broken to form continuous tubes. So protoplasm is absent in these xylem vessels. Protoplasm is absent, leaving a hollow space in the middle of the cell. Also, the cell walls are filled with lignin. They are lignified, and this provides mechanical support. The other vascular bundle we have is the phloem. So we have said the xylem deals with water. This other one, also, a phloem looks like this. This is how a phloem basically looks like. What is the function of the phloem? The major function of the phloem is to transport manufactured food from one part of a plant to another. So this one is the one that transports manufactured food from one part of the plant to another. Remember, the xylem, we said it deals with water and also mineral nutrients. All right, then the adaptation, the end walls between the neighboring cells are perforated. That's the difference with the xylem. With this one, the end cells, they are perforated. Protoplasm is partly lost, leaving behind some cytoplasmic strands, presence of the companion cells. So the structure of a phloem, it has got the companion cells which supply the phloem cell with the enzymes. We have what we call as the muscle cell. Basically, we have three types of muscles. We have what we call as the smooth muscle, the cardiac muscles, as well as the skeletal muscle. So now, when you look at the cardiac muscles, basically these are the muscles which do not get tired. These are the muscles. These cardiac muscles, these are the muscles that are found specifically, as the arrow is pointing, these muscles are found specifically where the heart. So the heart muscles are called the cardiac muscles. These muscles, and remember, muscles, they are antagonistic. What do we mean by antagonistic? This simply means that they have an opposite effect on each other. When the other one contracts, the other one will relax. That is how muscles work. When the other one contracts, the other one is going to relax. That is the antagonistic part of the muscles. So the cardiac muscles, the muscles of the heart, once the heart stops beating, you have what we call as cardiac arrest, where now the muscles stops contracting and relaxing. That sound, when you feel your heart, that beating, it is caused by the contraction and the relaxation of the muscles. That's why we said muscles, they work oppositely. When the other one contracts, the other one will relax. We also have what we call as skeletal muscles. So these skeletal muscles are muscles found where on the skeleton, like we can see here. This is skeletal muscles like the biceps and the triceps, or rather the flexor and the extensor. So these muscles are called the skeletal muscles. They also are antagonistic. When the other one contracts, the other one is going to relax. We also have what we call as the smooth muscles. We have what we call the smooth muscles. The muscles which are found in the lining of the what? Lining of the stomach. This is the stomach. So the muscles found in the lining of the stomach, these muscles are called the smooth muscles. Like we said, the function is just contraction to produce a movement. What is their adaptation? Abundance of mitochondria to release energy for contraction. Also presence of actin and also myosin filaments in the cytoplasm which carry out contractions. Basically, muscles are there to produce or provide a movement. That's why we are able to move our hands, because of the skeletal muscles. Our heart is able to beat, to pump blood, because of the cardiac muscles. We have also what we call as the red blood cells. Remember, we are looking at cell specialization. All these we are dealing with, these are specialized cells. Alright, so we have a red blood cell. A red blood cell is also known as the erythrocytes. Red blood cells are also called the erythrocytes. This is how a red blood cell looks like. And as we know, and we have been learning this, I think from grade 7, where we say the function of the red blood cells is just to transport oxygen. That answer does not change. So the functions of the red blood cells is just to transport oxygen as well as the small amount of carbon dioxide. Their adaptation, the red blood cells, they are concave disc shape, and these increase the surface area for diffusion of oxygen. The red blood cells also have a red pigment called the hemoglobin. It has the hemoglobin. So now hemoglobin combines with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin. This happens when oxygen concentration are very, very high. We also have what we call as the nerve cell. There is a topic in biology, precisely in grade 11, which is called the nervous system, where we talk about the neurons. So these are specialized cells that are able to carry out messages in form of electric impulse. So these are specialized cells. So basically the nucleus is here. So this part is called the cell body. And this cell body of the motor neuron is terminally located. That is the cell body. But when you look at the sensory neuron, the cell body is actually centrally located. It's on the center here, somewhere almost on the center. But this one is at the far end. That is how the cell body is located. Alright, we have what we call as the white blood cells. Remember, we have two types of white blood cells. We have the phagocytes and we have the leukocytes. So we have two types of white blood cell. But this is basically how the white blood cells looks like. Right. So like I said, there is what we call the phagocytes, and there is what we call as the lymphocytes. These are the two types of white blood cells. So we are starting with the phagocytes. What is the function of this? So the phagocytes, these defends the body against infection. How do they defend the body? By engulfing and digesting germs, which are foreign bodies. So the phagocytes, these are the ones which are responsible for engulfing what? Foreign bodies such as the germs. So the phagocytes is the one that will engulf. So when you look at the structure of a phagocyte, it has a lobed nucleus, and this makes engulfing of germs very easy. The other function, the phagocytes, they have no fixed shape but can change their shape, making the engulfing of foreign bodies possible. Let's proceed. The other type of red blood cells, like we said, the white blood cells, like we said, we have the lymphocytes. They have a very large nucleus. So presence of a large nucleus and a thin cytoplasm, that is their adaptation. Right. We also have what we call as the guard cells. The guard cells in the plant. This is how a guard cell looks like. When you see such a diagram and then they ask you, what is it? This is a guard cell. So a guard cell, it's responsible for opening and closing with a part called the stoma. So here the stoma has opened, as we can see here. We can see here the stoma has opened. This side here, the stoma is now closed. It is closed. Okay, so those are the parts and the features that a guard cell has some chloroplasts. It has the cell wall, it has the stoma, nucleus, the vacuole. Those are the parts that a guard cell has. Let's dive in to look at the functions. The guard cells, these are a pair of cells that surrounds each stoma. So the functions of the guard cell is just to control the size of the stoma, opening and closing. What is their adaptation? They occur in pairs and each cell has a semicircular, or rather a curved shape when touched and a straight shape when plasmolized. Their cell walls are thicker around the stoma than anywhere else. This makes it possible for the stoma to open when this cell absorbs water. So the stoma opens and closes. That is one thing that we need to understand here from the guard cell. Let us proceed. This marks the end of the specialized cells. So we are going to look at this question together. This question, it is on the cell structure and the specialization. This is one of the past paper question which was brought. So as we can see, we have three different types of cells, and these cells, they are specialized. These are basically the cells that we are just from explaining. So we have cell A, cell B, as well as the cell C. Let us identify the cells. What is A, B, and C? So just by looking at this cell, it has got the dendrites, this one dendrites. So because of having these dendrites, there's only one cell which we talked about having dendrites. That cell is called the nerve cell, or rather a neuron. This is called a nerve cell. All right, when you look at B, B has an elongated outgrowth. It has an elongated outgrowth, and there is only one cell we said it has an elongated outgrowth, a root hair cell. Cell C, it has got these tiny hairs called the cilia. It has got these tiny hairs called the cilia. Because of these tiny hairs, we can name, or rather identify, this cell as a ciliated cell. This is called a ciliated cell. All right, now where state the part of a living organism in which B and C are found. Where is our B? Our B is the root hair cell. From my explanation there, we said the root hair cell are found in the roots of a plant, and these are the ones responsible for absorption, if you remember well. What of C? C, because of these ciliated cell, we say it is found in two places. It is found in the respiratory tract, where it traps mucus as well as dust particles. Then also it is found in the oviduct. In the oviduct, it's the one that will move the egg from the fallopian tube to the uterus for implantation. So this is found in two places: respiratory tract as well as in the oviduct. Right. Explain the functions of each of the cell. A, we said, is a nerve cell, and this is the one responsible for transmitting of nerve impulses. So transmits electric impulse. These are called a nerve impulse from one part of the body to the other. So these cells are the main reason why we are able to feel pain. This cell is the reason why we are able to feel pain. B is the root air cell, and we have said this is absorption of water as well as dissolved mineral salts from the soil, since it's found in the root soil. So this is the one responsible for absorption of water. C, it is the function of C: sweeps mucus, traps dust as well as pathogens, which are also germs, out of the respiratory tract. When you look at the oviduct, in the oviduct, this is the specialized cell that is specialized only to push the cell from the fallopian tube to the uterus for implantation. That is another function which we can write there. Alright, this is the end of today's lesson. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your participation. Make sure that you subscribe, share, and like our videos. God bless you.